Hey guys, this is Michael Newman with AFME TV. We are here at Nob Hill Studios and you are watching On Cue. Hey guys, welcome to AFME TV's On Cue. I'm your host, Michael Newman, and we are here at Nob Hill Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have a special guest in the studio today, Mr. Hakim Bellamy.
What's up, Michael?
What's up? We're actually friends, so I'm going to act like I actually know.
In real life.
Yeah, in real life, outside of the TV life.
Yeah, not like TV friends.
Yeah.
Like the show Friends, anyway.
Yeah, anyway, I'm super excited that you're here. I'm really excited that you're here because we know each other, just being in the art scene in New Mexico and specifically Albuquerque, but I think your history and like where you came from and how you got into poetry is a really interesting story that I think other people would really enjoy too. So all these other influences in your life early on, how did that evolve from just, I'm going to write a couple words to I'm going to be a poet and I'm going to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, it was accident. My son's mother, Tracy Pontani, she was a singer and dancer kind of in the Philadelphia art scene when I met her, when I moved home from college and we met in the mall. And so, we started dating and hanging out. Her and her roommate actually were both really active artists and they knew their whole community and network was of artists. And, I bust out poems because I'm trying to impress a new love interest. Yeah. And they were like, this is actually really good. And they're like, we're not just saying that because we want you to stick around because she likes you. It's actually really good. And I was like, thanks, thinking nothing of it. And then one night we went and hung out at a bar in Philly and one of their friends who had a band and was a DJ kind of was performing and they had me come up and do a poem.
After a couple drinks, you had a little confidence.
Yeah, so I wasn't really prepared for that, but I did the one poem I had memorized and it was just really well received. It was encouraging to be in an environment where I didn't know anyone except for the two people I came with. Yeah. And I liked that feeling. And I said, that would be cool to do. And then I didn't do it anymore. Then I went back to work and I kind of just kept living my normal existence. But when I moved to Albuquerque, I actually looked out and pursued poetry slams. And I showed up at one. And the first one I came halfway through and kind of watched. I had a class, it was in the university area, so I couldn't be there to sign up anyway. The first two poets I saw were youth poets, Esme Von Drager and Joe Romero, who are really good friends of mine today. Esme and I were on the 2005 National Slam team together. And I was like, if these are the youth, I mean, how good are the adults, right? I was a little bit intimidated, right? Yeah. And the next slam I went to, Poetry and Beer, at the now defunct Golden West Saloon. It was attached to the El Rey, it burned down. I went there, I was early, I was actually on time for a slam. That was the last time I was on time for a slam, so I thought they actually ran things on time in Albuquerque. And I came back later when they started and I won the slam.
Just like that?
And that was in February of '05.
So you went from, city, state.
City, then I was on the UNM slam team in February as well, and we went to the Nationals in Westchester, which was right close to where I was at in Philly. My grandpa passed away actually that weekend, but that was the first kind of public competition I'd been in outside of Albuquerque, and we made it to finals, and people were kind of put on notice. They were like, Albuquerque ain't playing around, and then in April I became city champ, and then in August we won the National Poetry Slam, and in September I was doing advanced literary courses at UNM, and I'd only ever taken one creative writing class in my life. So.
But you're the teacher now.
Yeah, they'd bring us in as guest speakers, and I'd be like, okay, this is what I do, And after 9 years of that, I kind of have a pretty good classroom manner, and I deal with all kind of audiences from pre-K to senior citizens.
Right. Through your role as Poet Laureate.
Yeah, and before, but as Poet Laureate, it's actually my duty to kind of take poetry. The way I like to explain it is, I'm supposed to bring poetry to people it doesn't already matter to. So I can go to slams, and that's where people who like poetry go to hear poetry. And I can go to bookstore readings, and people who really like academic bookstore poetry readings will show up there. There's already community there. Right. And that's great. I enjoy doing that for me. It betters my craft. It makes me a better poet. But who's doing poetry at, the basketball tournament in the South Valley? Who's doing poetry at the Bosque school graduation? Who's doing poetry at the Albuquerque Rose Society show, where people may or may not be interested in poetry. Yeah. You have to be okay with that.
You have to be the beacon. Yeah. That's cool. And I want to get more into, your role as Poet Laureate in the past year, but we're going to go to commercial break. But when we come back, more Hakim.
We'd like to thank our sponsors, the international film community, and you for making the inaugural Albuquerque Film and Media Experience such a resounding success. We look forward to joining you at AFME 2014. Visit the website for details and updates.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Frendell. I am the director of One Track Heart, the story of Krishnadas, and you are watching AFME on Cue.
Welcome back to On Cue. I'm your host, Michael Newman, speaking with Hakim Bellamy. And let's go right back into Poet Laureate, because you're the very first Albuquerque Poet Laureate. That's a lot of acclaim. You know, you have to live up to a certain expectation to do that. How has that journey been for you, and what are some of the highlights from the year you've been Poet Laureate?
Man, it's a crazy thing because, you know, growing up in New Jersey, and being from a family that was pretty literate and into literature, like I knew what a laureate was really early. As a matter of fact, the one and only, if I'm not mistaken, for a really short term, New Jersey Poet Laureate was Amiri Baraka, who just passed away recently. And he was one of my poetic heroes at a really young age, just because my mom was a lot into the 60s and the activist movement. And so Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, these were artists that were part of that. Nikki Giovanni, they were artists that were part of that, you know, that moment in society. So I knew who they were. I knew who they were like they were celebrities. But then I also knew who, like, you know, Robert Frost was. I knew the canon, the poets of the canon as well. And so in my estimation, I always thought that a laureate was dead, old and white. And I was none of those three. So I was like, it just never really occurred to me that would be something that I would say I would do at 35 years old. And it really never occurred to me because I wasn't even going to apply for it. And I had some mentors that really encouraged me. They were like, you know, you kind of already do the work. Like, you know, and that's to me was like, okay, well, I do a lot of poetry and community. I'm happy I'm published. I'm published by West End Press. They're a great publisher and they took a chance on me, but that's not my main concern. And so I feel like for this position, you want a poet whose concern is less about their career arc at that moment and more about poetry in the service of community and bringing poetry to people, having it impact their lives, letting them have it as a tool. You know what I'm saying?
And I wanted to ask you about that because not many people see the inside of what that really means to be a Poet Laureate. And I was going to say, how do you think poetry and art in general can play a role in the municipal life? You know, because it's a kind of a distance between the two. Like, you know, you're in the city planning. But there's a cultural element that I think people don't realize as well. Have you, in the journey throughout the year, have you found like there's a niche where both can interplay with each other?
Yeah, and I think it's more, I think the definition of that is the contrast between product and process. Right. So a lot of art, think of visual art, think of a dance performance, and I don't want to minimize other processes of other genres. But a lot of times in our culture, the emphasis, the money is placed on the product, the end product. And so how many hours that dancer rehearsed is kind of almost irrelevant. We want to see a good end product. You know, a visual artist, it's like, we don't want to see your different drafts, we want to see the end product. I feel like as the poet though, my job is to provide a good end product, and I hope I do that. But more, what I'm doing is I'm creating a process. And so when I go work in elementary schools, when I go work with different communities around different social issues, when I go work in the Bernalillo County Metro Detention Center and the Bernalillo County Youth Detention Center, I'm actually saying, you're all not going to grow up and be poets. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't make enough money for all of us to grow up and be poets. So I know you might want to do something that's a little more lucrative. But the process of like writing and getting in touch with yourself and being able to articulate yourself, like that stuff is useful for you in other parts of your life, and it can be healing and therapeutic. That's why I get into this like new agey crystals and poetry stuff. But you know, I'm giving them that. I'm giving them that practice even.
It's a vehicle for others. It's the means to an end for them to find whatever their medium is. But it's a very practical step. And you know, and something that everybody can use, how to articulate. You know, how to put words together. So that's amazing, and I don't think many people think about that. How do you? So your term is ending, right?
It's ending.
So when is the deadline for the new Poet Laureate?
The new Poet Laureate has to apply by the 31st of January.
Okay. So
and the applications close that day, so you can just go to the website and apply, abqpoetlaureate.org. There was a nomination window that was open, but that is passed, where someone could nominate people who are you know, just kind of less, they're more shy, and they were like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I can do it. Well, there was a process where you could nominate people, but at this point, anybody can say, hey, I'm gonna put my hat in the ring. I'm gonna go fill out an application.
Tell your friends.
Yeah,
Poet Laureate.
please,
You could be you.
Tell your friends, because my term is up. So.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm really excited to see the transition for you coming out of that, and you know, your book Swear, like you said, it was just self-published, and you know that in itself is a feat, but also bringing in poetry in other facets. You know, whether it be through music, through performance and stuff like that. I think that you have a lot of skill in those specific facets as well. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I plan on doing a lot more music, a lot more theater. Just kind of poetry is giving me a platform to be asked and invited to do other things, and I've been marginally successful at those things. So I want to kind of nurture those other outlets. Yeah.
And I'm not to mention. I highlighted, AFME connection with the film festival this year, with the Michael Madsen poetry kind of fiasco, if it's going to be. Yes. How important is it to have these major celebrities who maybe have a passion in writing, but they never really get the venue to do that.
I call it artist envy.
Artist envy.
And the best example of artist envy is, I'm 35, so you guys gonna have to go on a little trip with me.
Right.
Back in my youth, back in Kobe Bryant's early days of basketball, Shaquille O'Neal's early days of basketball, Allen Iverson. I'm from Philadelphia.
Right.
All of these world-class, Olympic, even national champion, world champion basketball players have something that they're really good at, and that's putting that ball in the hole.
Right.
Yet they all want to be rappers.
Right.
So each one of those artists came out with a rap album. And I love rap, and I'm not dissing because they may be watching this and I may be seeking their funding one day, but it wasn't as good as their basketball playing.
Right.
I mean, that's the politically correct way to say it. And so I feel like that happens to artists all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Michael's a much better poet than Shaq was a rapper.
Right. So we'll see.
That's going to be awesome, but I feel like
see.
Artists do that. Like I always wish I could break dance, and then the break dancer wishes they could paint, and then the painter wishes that they could, play the flute or whatever, right?
Finding the medium that complements it, but it's different. And so we're going to see you, hopefully doing some poetry, maybe do some musicianship, who knows, but with Michael Madsen at AFME this year. So we're really excited about that.
I'm excited.
And I know we're running out of time, but there's so much we could talk about. There's so much we could talk about, but I want to thank you. We'll do it again. We'll do it another episode. All good. But thank you so much, Hakim, for being with us, and best of luck with everything else when you're parting from this position.
Thanks. I'm not going to leave you, Albuquerque, but I do need a couple days to myself. Mental health days, a spa day at least.
A spa
at
day.
least one good
Hook
spa
him up
day.
with spa day. I don't know.
If you're out there, 10,000
day.
waves, whoever.
That's good. Anybody. Hey, and you guys, please stay tuned. AFME TV on Q. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Michael Newman, and make sure you go to abqfilmx.com for the rest of this whole episode.